Welcome to Commander Central, episode 35. Today we're going to talk about some of the new commanders from the Dominaria set. Specifically, we're going to talk about some under-the-radar commanders, some kind of ones that we think people aren't going to be talking about on every other podcast.
Oh, I did not get mine set up right, man. I'm talking about Joyra.
It's all Joyra.
Yes, all Joyra everything.
No, we're going to be more hipster here in this show. Chris has got the man bun in. Max has waxed up his mustache. Yep. I'm eating avocado toast. So get ready for Hipster Commander Central episode 35. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
So yeah, Joyra, that's what every show is going to be about, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
I already talked about Joyra on the EDH Rec podcast, so
well, she is good.
She is good.
Yeah.
But there's like no fresh takes. We're going to talk about some ones that are under the radar but we think are going to be good.
Yep.
So Max, how are you feeling?
I feel better now.
I asked that because I got a text from Max at like
1:30
a.m. being like, I'm still drinking.
Oh, hey, I was out still. You could have called me. I could have come pick you up or something.
It's playoff time for the NHL.
I didn't even see how did the Ducks.
They got their teeth kicked in.
They're playing the Predators again, right?
No, the Sharks now.
Sharks. Who did they play and lost? Is it the Sharks that they lost to in the
Predators? They lost last year to go to the finals.
Yep.
That was sad.
So it was like sadness drinking last night post game for you.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, that's rough. But you survived.
I'm here.
You actually look you're in okay shape.
Yeah.
All things considered.
I feel good. This morning was rough. Very rough.
All right. Yeah, because I didn't hear from you this morning either, so I assumed I'm like, ooh, I assume he's alive, but. And now Chris is geared up for Modern win a trip to Vegas tomorrow, right?
Yep.
So what are you playing? You don't know yet.
I don't know. I'm torn between Red, Green, Eldrazi, and Burn. I think I'm going to play Burn just because I know our meta, and Burn is super powerful in our meta.
So are you hyped and ready for it?
I guess.
As ready as you're going to get?
As ready as I mean, it's no different than like when we went to Milwaukee last weekend, so it's just another tournament. So
were you pretty happy with how that played out? I mean, you didn't
get to
I
was.
The next day, but like you did pretty well.
Yep. I played Red, Green, Eldrazi. I ended up going 5-4.
Yep.
By the end of it. You need 7 points to 7 wins to make it day 2. So, but I played them all out.
Nice. And Max was down there just hanging out and jamming games.
Jamming games. Got to meet some listeners. A lot of fun. Handed out some cards, some business cards, and
yeah, I felt bad that I was in the middle of all my games and I didn't get to stop and say hi to anybody.
They all understood. The ones that said, "Hey, where's Chris?" I'm like, "Yeah, somewhere over there."
Look for the red D20 shirt.
Yep.
Yeah, you're pretty focused.
Yep, I was.
So. All right. Well, how about games this week? Anybody play any fun games? Because we actually played games. Chris, did you play? I think you were in the shop.
I don't remember what I was doing.
I don't know if you played any Commander though.
I don't remember what I was doing on Tuesday. To be honest with you.
I know Max played. We played a few games.
I played a few games.
I played with your Dramoka deck.
You did.
Which I wanted to play specifically because I've never won with it, I don't think, when I've played it before. So I wanted to go in intentionally. I had a plan this time. I was going to play it like my Sphinx deck. I wanted to play it like a control deck, even though it's, white-green control. But I'm like, it plays similar. I figured like a lot of big beater creatures, and you've got a lot of removal and a lot of draw. So I'm like, I can play that like a no counterspell control deck and see how it worked. And it worked really well for me playing it like that style deck. I intentionally didn't go overly aggressive. I held back. I let everyone else kind of beat each other up, and I just kept enough of a board presence to discourage you from attacking me. I drew a bunch of cards off of Hunter's Insight and Hunter's Prowess and stuff like that, and just set myself up for to be in a position to, towards the end of the game when things started grinding down and everyone's life total were low, I could just one-shot a couple people and got the win. So that was fun to play.
Awesome. Glad you enjoyed it.
It just takes that sometimes. So you have to just figure out how to play the deck.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just getting to that point. So.
I know a lot of times when I play like your guys' decks, I slow play them just to figure out how all the pieces fit together. Like if you rush play it, then you're like, oh, I drew this card. This could have been really good with that card that's in the graveyard for the past 10 turns type of deal.
And if you play the deck a lot, you know that. But if you don't, you don't. So.
Yep.
I ran into that with Reki down in Milwaukee. I put Dragon Throne and Tarkir on something, and I thought Dragon Throne allowed the creature to tap, but no, the creature is the one that taps.
Right.
Yep.
So if the creature has something like this, you
yeah,
can't use
and
Dragon
that's
Throne.
what I did. I put it on something I just cast. I'm like, oh, I have to wait another turn to win the game.
Yeah. But you did win.
Oh yeah, it was bad, real bad.
Any other fun games you played down there that are worth talking about?
It's there was a lot of combos. Like people come
Sure.
with combo decks. I got the Thrasios Timna.
Because you were playing like an actual like pay pods,
Yep,
weren't you?
they
mostly?
were. So the way Star City Games does it compared to like Grand Prix, you pay $5 to do the pod. Grand Prix Minneapolis, I think is 10. You start off by getting 10 prize tickets, and their rule is you have to give your 10 prize tickets to a different player in your pod. So
Okay.
whether it's, hey, you saved me, here's my prize tickets, hey, you have a really cool, interesting deck, it just adds a layer of politicalness to
Sure.
the game, which was cool, I thought. And they found it discourages people from just paying $5 to get 20 prize tickets with their CEDH deck.
Sure, right.
So, it was cool. Towards the end of the night, we just started being like, okay, this is how we've been doing it all day. I'm going to give you my prize tickets. You're going to give me your prize tickets, because then everybody gets something. There is a chance
Right.
someone doesn't walk away with anything. And everybody seemed fine with that. Even the judge was like, whatever you guys want to do, you just technically shouldn't keep your own tickets.
Okay.
But no, I saw a Greel deck
Which is an old mono
from
black,
Prophecy, I think.
right? Yeah.
I mean, that was a cool card. He didn't really get online because we had a Narset player on our table who...
Boo.
Yep, he's a listener, so he's expecting this. Narset's his only creature, and she never left the battlefield. More than
What?
once. I think she left once. He recast her right away. And just, he's like, I think I have to Armageddon here. I'm like, yeah, that's the right play. Go ahead and do Armageddon.
I actually went off a little bit of a Narset thing on... So I'll quick set this up. For those that don't know, there's an official EDH Rec podcast now that I'm on. And the episode that just came out, which was the second one, we were talking about like the top 10 or top 20 most popular commanders in EDH Rec. And one of the questions was, which one do you wish was not on the list? And then that was my pick was like, I wish Narset wasn't on the list. And I had reasons, like argue that like I think it makes people kind of bad deck builders. It teaches you bad habits because you don't need to care about a lot of stuff. You don't need to care about protecting your commander. You don't need to care about casting things.
She just cheats everything, and she's got hexproof to begin
Mhm.
with.
Yeah.
and-
So,
yeah.
so I had a reason for it. It wasn't just me like being like, screw you, Narset.
Mm-hmm.
But there was part of that. There was an element of that, absolutely, for sure.
And I tried to build Narset and build her fair with equipment, because then you have to spend the mana to
You have
try
to at least equip her, right.
Yep. I mean, yeah, you can cheat them in, but you guys still hated me out of
Right,
the game.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, this is like the fairest I can possibly get this deck.
That'll teach you trying to be a good sportsman.
Narset tokens. There you go. Just play all the token cheap sorcery spells.
I will quick note this again because I've mentioned it a few times, but I got several commander damage kills on people on Tuesday this week again. It's a thing that happens. I don't know why there's people that seem to think it doesn't occur.
I literally have a deck that's built around
Yeah,
just
right,
doing
yeah.
commander damage.
Yeah.
Same here.
And we did an interesting thing, and I was thinking about it afterwards, and I just don't know if there was a right answer to this question, but we had a game where there was a chainer deck that had put multiple things in the field, one of which was a Kokushko, and there was he had a Gray Merchant out too, so like bad things were going to start happening with sack outlets pretty quick. And he had a bunch of mana. He had like I don't know if it was a Gauntlet or whatever it was.
He had Extraplanar Lens and a Crypt Ghast.
Yeah, so like he was making like, so he could basically sack stuff, recast it with Chainer, and do as much as he wanted to do it. And I was trying, at least the next turn, he was going to be able to do all of that.
Yep.
And to find an answer to Chainer, I did a Momentous Fall on some big, I mean in Den deck, some big creature that was like an 18/18.
You had like a Uvenwall Hydra, I think.
Yeah, something that was out of control. And Max had a counterspell, and he was going to counterspell it because I'm going to gain 18 life, but
And draw 18 cards.
But I'm like, I'm going to find an answer to Chainer too, probably. So, and you let it go.
I
You're
did
like,
let it
you're
go.
Like, oh, man, but like that's a bad situation. I was thinking about it afterwards. I'm like, that's a lose-lose kind of. I'm going to draw 18 cards and probably deal with Chainer. And I did. Like, he trusted me that I would, and I did. I killed Chainer, and he lost all his creatures that were in play. They got exiled, so then it wasn't a problem again after that. So I shut down Chainer, but then I was clearly then took control of the game, and I wound up winning it.
Yeah.
So what do you do then? Do you just hope? I think the answer, and at least I think my answer, and I'll give my answer first. I think that's the right call, because if you know you can't deal with Chainer, then you might as well let the person deal with it, because maybe you can deal with Mina and Den.
Yep.
So you take the maybe over the I guarantee I can't. But either way, that's not a fun choice to have to make, where you're like, well, okay, I guess this will stop one thing, but that's going to screw me somewhere in another way. So is that the choice you make in that situation, do you think?
I think so.
Yeah. I knew what I had in my hand. I knew I couldn't stop chainer myself. So you were the only other player that I figured had an answer. I don't even remember what the fourth deck was.
Yeah, I think he was lands flood. I think he was playing
Yeah.
or Silent or Dragon or something, and
yep.
he was out of lands or didn't have enough to do anything worthwhile. So
Yeah, so I mean, I knew what I had in my hand and knew I couldn't stop chainer, so I figured I would let you do it.
I can't stop Chainer, but maybe I can stop
Right.
Mina and Den, even though it's not a good
Well,
situation.
I had an answer to Mina and Den. I responded with a Mystical Tutor, no, an Enlightened Tutor instead,
Oh yeah,
and I grabbed Gideon's Intervention,
put it on the top of your library.
put it on top of my library, and then Dana made me shuffle my library.
Oh.
Because
Well,
I
you
was,
don't do that until the very last thing that they do on a turn.
I know, but it was like
Well, no, you had,
Valkout had me dead to rights, so I was
Yep.
going to name Valkout and just survive. Because you
I deglamored.
stormed.
That would, oh yeah, I did. That was it.
Because I went off, and he like, I storm and kill you.
With wings. No, what is it? Sprouting vines.
Yep.
You got enough mountains to. Yeah. So that was interesting. Just that's a lose-lose situation basically.
It is.
Any other game stuff before we move on here from you guys?
Nope.
No. All right. So social media, anything like that? I think we have a new Patreon worth mentioning
We
this
do.
week.
We do have a new Patreon. Seth French Dubois, thank you for pledging to the show. We're glad you are listening and enjoying the show, and we will get around to doing your deck tech here in a few weeks.
And we wound up, we mentioned like the Patreons would throw people into Slack.
Yep.
And we've had a handful of our Patreons pop up and
Good conversations.
Yeah, some very good conversation, particularly because like this week with all the spoilers coming out, there's a lot of stuff going on. So that's been fun talking to a lot of these guys.
And I'm terribly sorry to everyone who listens, but I totally just completely turned off my Slack.
Because
The
you
amount
get
of
notifications.
Between that, Twitter, my Facebook, I can't do any more notifications on my phone, so I pick Slack because that one goes off the most.
That seems reasonable. I
It
understand that.
Seems very reasonable.
But if you do, like at @WiseSquishy or whatever my name is on Slack, I will get a notification for that. So if you direct a message to me, I will get that notification. But general chat, I don't see anything.
Yeah. You get notifications for mentions and
Yep.
your name popping up.
So, but yeah, for everybody else, we got a whole bunch of other social media outlets you guys can reach us on. Twitter @CMDR Central, Facebook search us CMDR Central, YouTube search us CMDR Central, or you can find us online at cmdrcentral.com.
And we are on Patreon, as we just said, by searching CMDR Central.
And we've had a ton of entries into the Bonfire and Sunday contest already.
Oh,
as
I
well.
saw a few of those. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, they're doing it.
So keep it up. We'll draw at the end of the month. And thank you very much to D20 Gaming here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin for providing us with that card.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. So let's talk about Legends from Dominaria.
Woohoo, I get to talk about Joyra. I'm so
So, yeah,
excited.
Let's discuss Joyra. and Muldrotha and Slimefoot. So there's some obvious ones that are going to be good. Joda in a 5-color deck is going to be good, and Tatiova, who's the play land draw card Merfolk, is going to be good. And there's some that are clearly not going to be any good, like that Slin Voda is the sea creature that's 14 mana to cast or whatever it is to bounce.
I think it's 8 with a kicker of
8 with a
4.
kick. Yeah, like that's
Oh.
and that'll be fine in someone's like sea creature deck, but it's not a commander. So we don't talk about ones that are going to be good commanders, we think, but that like not everyone else in the world is thinking about and going to make into a deck. So Max, you want to start us off here and give us?
I will. I'll start us off with Shauna Sisay's Legacy. She is green-white for a 0/0 legendary creature. Shauna Sisay's Legacy cannot be the target of abilities your opponents control, and she gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. So she is pretty much a 1/1 if she's the only thing on the board. So the reason I like this one is I like the not quite hexproof, but there are a lot of creatures that have tap abilities that can target your stuff, and she gets protection from a lot of those.
2 mana is really aggressive too. I mean, she's going to be a 1/1 if she's the only creature you control, but I'm assuming she's going to be in a token deck of some sort.
Oh, yeah.
I hate Gave. All of you who play Gave, you're cool people.
Switch to Slimefoot.
But yeah, no. But this card is definitely, if it doesn't get slotted into a Gave deck, I don't know why they're not doing it.
It should be in your Gave deck, first of
Yes.
all. She's competing with Risa Redeemed as a Selesnya token deck, and I guess maybe Tristani.
Yeah.
But she has the advantage of, in a token deck, killing people.
Yeah,
Like
she's
Tristani's
commander
not going to
damage.
kill anybody, and you're not going to kill anybody with Risa Redeemed. If you've got a token deck where you want to make a bunch of tokens and have the option to kill somebody with her being a 20/20 or something ridiculous, you can do that.
Commander damage, again, it is
It's
a thing.
It absolutely is a thing. Yeah.
The thing about her, though, that's cool is if you do play her as your general and you have all these token generators and stuff, she is hexproof.
Right.
No.
Yeah, it says that she can't be the target of
abilities.
Oh,
abilities.
Only abilities.
Okay,
so
I read it wrong. I thought I
I-
read spells and abilities.
I had to read it a few times too, because I'm like, oh shit, why didn't they just say hexproof? And now
It's
I know
just
why
abilities.
it's just abilities.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, she's not as good as I thought then. Yep, okay.
It's
Bad
really
choice, Max. Bad
terrible
choice.
card.
I'm done. See you next week.
And the one thing I kind of like about her too, though, is she's a warrior, and we've recently got a bunch of warriors in Tarkir and a couple of different sets over the last couple of years. And there's not really a commander specifically that works well with warriors. Even though she doesn't work with warriors, she does because she gets +1 for each creature you control.
Yep.
So if you just spam a bunch of low-cost warriors in a deck too, you can build a warrior tribal deck with her that's pretty effective and also kind of cares about warriors in an indirect way.
Yep.
Just because it cares about bodies.
Yeah, that's true.
So she's kind of got some flexibility too, which I always like.
Who's next?
Chris, what do you got for us?
Let's go. Come on, stop, computer. Stupid scrolling way too fast. This one is really under the radar.
All right.
It's called Whisper. Talk real quiet.
Shh. Whisper.
Blood Liturgist. I'm not sure if I spelled it.
I believe it's Blood Liturgist, I believe.
Liturgist? Okay. 3 colorless and a black. Tap. Sacrifice 2 creatures. Return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. And he or she is a 2/2. I'm guessing it's a... We don't get into that here on this podcast.
Right.
For me, this was looking through everything, an auto-include that's going into my Alesha deck. But I think it could be made as a commander, as a mono-black reanimate deck of some sort. Especially when you're playing cards like... that create tokens, like what is that Thrall creating dude? I can't think of his name.
Hendrik Sar Master Breeder.
So you sack 2 of them, bring back your Ob Nixilis or your Grey Merchant or something out of the graveyard, and just pew pew go to town.
I think it's a really solid card in a deck like that, like you mentioned. I will probably put her in my Teysa deck if I keep my Teysa deck, which will come up later on.
Ooh.
And just this morning, I saw a deck list from Dean Goody, who's on Commander Time podcast, and he's a writer at EDH Rec. And he put together a Whisper deck, like a Stacks deck that he was playing, and he played online with a couple people last night that he really liked.
You don't play stacks with people that you like.
Right.
Nope. No, you don't. Nope.
I did say I think it's probably not the best thing in mono black that does what it does. I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting commander.
Oh yeah.
And that's always good. It's always fun to do things that are kind of a little bit under the radar as well. But yeah, Reanimator or Stacks both work pretty well with her.
Yeah. Interesting mechanic.
Yeah.
Definitely. It would be cool to see what you do there in Alesha.
Oh well, yeah, because she comes back with Alesha too as
Right.
a 2/2. So, oh my goodness, the value.
That works nicely.
I can sacrifice all those token makers.
Yep.
All
It's
right.
gonna be so good.
I will go with the first one I have in my list here. And this was one that I kind of put in and I wasn't sure about at first because I knew why it was on my list, but that as I began looking at it, I'm like, actually, this is probably just a good inclusion in general. And it's Lyra Dawnbringer. She is a legendary creature angel, 3 and 2, so 5 mana. Flying, first strike, lifelink, and other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. So it's mono white for starters.
Angels.
In my initial thought and why I included her, my first thing I was going to do was I thought this would be a good intro deck to build for like my wife or someone who doesn't really want to play Magic maybe, but like or wants to play casually or something because it's a cool card. It's pretty simple to understand. Angels are a tribe that always kind of look good on cards too. I mean, it's something that kind of is appealing to people.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what, I could make an intro deck with Lyra, throw some angels in the deck. It's simple to play. It's not, it doesn't require you to know like complicated mechanics. So that was my first initial thought. But then once I started looking at her a little bit and thinking a little bit more, I don't think this is going to be like commander that's like going to tear the world up, but the problem with Angel Tribal is that you wind up having to run expensive angels, either expensive as in they're $25 for like a Avacyn Angel of Hope, or expensive as in they just cost a bunch of mana to cast.
They're 8 mana like
Avacyn,
Avacyn
right.
Angel of Hope.
Right. Or, Baneslayer's $10,
Yeah.
and Archangel of Thune is, I think, still 10, and I think Linvala is still over 10.
Gisela Broken Blade is around
Close
10.
to 10.
Yeah.
So you have to run these angels that are both expensive to cast and it's expensive to buy. So in this deck with Lyra, because your angels get +1/+1 in lifelink, you can run some kind of low-to-the-ground angels that are relatively cheap to cast and definitely cheap to buy, and they suddenly get much better. So looking through the list, I was like, okay, Angel of Finality is a 3/4 that when it comes into play, it exiles someone's graveyard, and that's useful to have.
It's only a 4-mana angel.
It's only a
I do
4-mana
believe.
angel, but you're like, but it's a 3/4, and like it's not that flashy. When that becomes a 4/5 with lifelink, that's suddenly a much scarier thing to have in play.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of those when you go down the list. Like Angel of Jubilation is 4 mana, and it's a decent card. People can't sacrifice stuff.
Yep.
It buffs your other angels, but like with this, suddenly it becomes a 5/5. Then you have things like Angelic Field Marshal that buffs that gives your other angels vigilance. It becomes a 6/6 with Lyra with lifelink.
Yeah.
So you can run a bunch of angels without lifelink, give them lifelink. They become much better creatures. They're cheap to buy. They're cheaper to cast. And then you can run a bunch of like effects that synergize with lifelink. Angelic Accord, where you make an angel whenever you gain 4 life in of a turn. Well, your commander is a 5/5 with lifelink.
Free
so
angels.
your commander alone is making you a free angel. Well, of Lost Dreams draws cards when you gain life, which is always a weakness for white. Aetherflux Reservoir you can then use. Cradle of Vitality puts counters on stuff when you gain life. So I don't think it's. I still think it's going to be a, not a fantastic deck. I think you can actually make a deck that will legitimately play here, and it's beginner friendly. That's probably pretty cheap to put together. So yeah, the more I looked at Lyra Dawnbringer, the more I liked the card.
So Atraxa Angel Tribal, this might be an addition.
I think it will possibly be showing up in a deck in Las Vegas here.
I
in a couple
definitely
months.
think it will too.
Oh man, 5/5 Atraxa.
Yeah, right, exactly.
With double lifelink? Oh, that's not how that works.
Super lifelink, super first strike.
Oh, each trigger is a separate instance of lifelink if something else is given it, right? That's how it works.
It doesn't for other people, but I think it does for us. I think that's how
Because we're us, yeah.
Right. All right, let's move on.
My next one is Evra Halcyon Witness. For white, lifelink, and for 4 mana, you can exchange your life total with her power. And she's a 4/4. I think this is a cool like mono white Voltron build. Like a lifelink type build. You get your life up super high, you make her unblockable, and you activate the ability during combat, and you just killed someone with commander damage.
One shot somebody. Yeah.
And you get the life back.
Yep.
You knock your life down to do it, and your life just magically comes back.
It's like Hatred on a stick almost.
In mono white.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
like
super
it.
cool card.
I do like it.
It's and if it was in a different color too, you'd kind of be like, well, whatever. But being in white, it's such a weird effect in white that makes it really intriguing, I think.
So that basically what you're saying for that type of deck, you're going to have to look for everything that gives lifelink, so you net that life back.
Yeah.
It has lifelink.
It has
though.
lifelink.
Oh, it has lifelink.
Baked into the creature.
Oh, suck it, noobs! I know
Right.
what I want to play now.
Or you put double strike on it, and you give it. You hopefully hit somebody where it's just enough to not kill them with the first swing, and then kill them with the second one. So you gain that much, another 50 life or
yes.
something.
Yeah.
Oh, I can just feel
It's
it.
dirty. It's super dirty,
Yeah.
I think.
And it's not something people expect to see coming in mono white for
No,
sure.
not at all.
Whisper Silk Cloak on it, so it gets through every time. A Rogue's Passage.
First person that shows up with this at the deck, I'm killing you first. At our shop, you're gonna die first because I don't want to have this happen to me.
Now it does take a little bit of work because you have to protect it. Because what you don't want is to be like, I'm going to activate that ability and get knock myself down to 4 life, and then someone bolts it.
Yep. Or you.
Not bolt, but like Path to Exile, or bolts you, right?
Boros
right.
Charm, you're
Right.
dead.
So you want to make sure it's protected, and you have to keep yourself a little bit safe. But I still think it's a super cool
I think
card.
that deck needs Leyline of Sanctity, True Believer,
Witchbane Orb.
Chomano,
Right.
Revolutionary, that kind of stuff.
Mono
So anything
white.
that comes at you goes somewhere
Yep.
else, or you have Hexproof.
Aegis of the Gods. Yeah, you have hexproof deck.
That's a good call, Max. I like that card. Chris, what's your second one?
Danitha Capuchin, think I pronounced that right, Paragon. First strike, vigilance, lifelink, 2 colorless and a white. Aura and equipment spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast. And it is a 2/2. Now, I was really looking at this card hard because I don't know if it's a good general or if it's a good support. Because, I mean, obviously the biggest downfall to mono white is...
It's mono white.
It's mono white. The ability on this to make everything cost less to cast is awesome. So you can play your big 6-drop artifacts for 5, your equipment for 5, your 4-mana enchantments for 3, that type of deal, and get them out there faster. And first strike, vigilance, lifelink. Ooh.
Love it. Love it.
I mean, she definitely needs to be in all of those equipment decks for sure. Like, I would for sure have her in Shram, and I would for sure have her in
Balin and Kimba.
Yeah, all those. What's the red white
Jorkadeen.
Jorkadeen. Like any of those decks, for sure, she wants a home in those decks. I think she has, as a solo commander, she's not as good as Balin.
No.
But she's also interesting because she's a little bit different when she's equipped, being able to have vigilance and the lifelink. You can maybe run worse equipment with her.
Yep.
Because or equipment that focuses on buffing her combat damage because she already has vigilance and lifelink and first strike. So you don't need to give those to her. I think she's a fun card. I think she's not quite as good as the other ones. I also think it's interesting that we've had 3 mono white commanders.
Yeah.
So mono white seems to just be good this time. I mean,
they definitely seem to be trying to make it good for sure.
I like this card because it's uncommon and
yeah,
it's going to be easy to get your hands on. And if you ever get, like, your playgroup or something wants to do, like a wild hair, hey, let's do peasant commander. Right, commander has to be uncommon. Guess what? They gave you a whole bunch of uncommon commanders you can play with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did.
All right. My second one is one that when I first saw, I dismissed immediately, and then I looked at it closer and thought about it and talked about it with a few people and decided that I like this card. It's Kazarov Sengir Pureblood. So he's 7 mana, so he's like, which is, I think, in Canadian 22.
Yeah.
If the conversion. He's a legendary creature vampire with flying, and whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt damage, put a +1 counter on Kazarov Sengir Pureblood. And you can also shock somebody for 3 and a red. That part is not that relevant, but maybe as a mana sink or something you would do it. But the important thing there is it makes this a Rakdos card.
Yep.
So, yes, 7 mana is a gazillion. I will again point that out because it is. But whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt damage, it gets a +1 counter. That's any creature and is dealt any amount of damage, including 1 damage. So if you are running Pestilence effects or Pyrrhemia, which is basically Red's Pestilence, every activation is going to plink everyone's creatures for 1. And if in a 4-player pod, even if there's only 1 creature out under everyone else's control, 1 activation puts 3 +1 counters on Kazarov. Your second activation puts 3 more. Your third activation puts 3 more. And if there's more creatures than that out, if somebody has like 3 or 4 or 5 creatures out and you activate it, I mean, you can just, with like 4 or 5 mana, turn this guy into a 20-something.
Wait.
Relatively easily.
More commander damage?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Now, you probably, again, you're going to need to protect it. Like, you're going to need to probably give it indestructible, definitely hexproof.
Yeah.
But you can also, like Pestilence is just a good card. It sweeps the board, it kills tokens. Like, it's just useful to have. So you can run useful cards that do useful things and also make your commander way better. And Blasphemous Act is a great card in general. And if you've got a Darksteel Playdead and Kazarov, Blasphemous Act suddenly not only sweeps the board, but makes your commander way bigger. If you're running something like, Pyroclasm or Mizium Mortars or Chain Reaction or Chandra's Ignition.
Yep.
Or Arcbond or Anger of the Gods or whatever. Like, there's a bunch of those cards that are good and do good things that improve your board state by killing small creatures. And Kazarov gets better when you do that.
It's the only downfall I see to it is that it's a 7 mana creature.
7 mana is a lot of mana in colors that don't ramp.
Yep.
You'll get there. I had 8 mana on turn 2 playing Tajik this week, so you're fine.
You have rocks, but also the thing I was thinking is a lot of the things you want to do to have Kazarov be effective, you probably want to do before you cast him anyway. 7 is still a lot, but like you want to probably have some form of equipment out to protect him. You probably want to have some way to deal damage to the whole board, like a pestilence kind of effect, or pestilence rats, or there's a couple creatures that do it as well.
Yep.
So you probably want to set a few things up. And in addition, those things like pestilence kind of keep you safe while you're waiting to get Kazarov out. You can clear the board and sweep up small creatures with those effects until you're at that 7 mana where you're capable of getting them out and suiting them up. So it's not a great commander or anything. Again, it's not something that like you're going to be stomping on pods at GP Vegas with. But I think it's a kind of a winds up being an interesting, unique effect. Run a bunch of earthquakes, run a bunch of stuff like that, and you can do because he has flying, so you can run all the different red earthquakes.
Yes, you can.
And he won't get touched, and you can buff him while you're cleaning the board out. So I think it's kind of a cool commander. I wish he was 6. At 6, you'd be like, oh, it's 6, but that's doable.
It's a little bit closer.
7's rough.
I don't think I've ever seen someone play a 7 mana commander aside from the Dragon, which gets
Thraxamundar 7.
Oh well, Thraxamundar's got so much. We don't.
But
talk
he has
about
haste too. Thrax has haste.
Yeah.
Angry Omnath is 7.
Yep.
But
you're in ramp.
But you're in ramp colors, so that makes a difference. So, anyway, Kazarov, Sengir Pureblood, go build a deck.
Do it.
Tell us about it. All right, what else we got?
Go ahead.
Okay, this one, everyone's gonna yell at me for this. I know it's gonna happen, but I chose, and this is one I've been chatting a lot with other people, especially for 1v1 commander. Niambi, Faithful Healer. 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue. This creature is going to come in the Planeswalker deck, the Teferi Planeswalker deck. When she comes into play, she searches for Teferi the Timebender. Now, either from your graveyard or your library, and then you put it into your hand. Now, the thing that I was reading with this is in a 1v1 format, even in multiplayer, the ability to blink her and repeatedly bring Teferi back no matter where he goes is huge. Now, as Teferi, he's not super powerful. He's 4 colorless, 1 white, +2, untap up to 1 target artifact or creature. -3, you gain 2 life and draw 2 cards. Or -9, take an extra turn after this one. Starts with 5 loyalty. But the ability to completely recur him as much as possible with like blink effects or whatever, and then just, let's -3, gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, I think is going to be super powerful.
You are essentially running, you can either look at it like you're running a hidden commander kind of with Teferi, or you're running partners with Niambi and Teferi. Yeah, this is, I agree it's not super powerful, but it's such a weird, unique thing. I think it's awesome. I was looking at this too, and I'm like, man, if I didn't have a deck already in those colors, I would build it just because it's such a weird thing.
And it may just be me, but I think it's the first time that one of the Planeswalker decks actually has something viable to play for Commander.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It's a really cool card, and when you explain that interaction to me before we record, I'm like, whoa, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, I mean, Teferi's just going to be, cool. If you can get up to -9, take an extra turn, awesome. If you don't, you're just netting 2 cards every time that, he's out there.
Yep.
And we'll talk about it on the next show for next week, but like there's Oath of Teferi, which lets you activate a Planeswalker a second time, which synergizes with this nicely. The existing 2 oaths you have in these colors, which are Jace and Gideon's 2 oaths, which are also good with Planeswalkers.
You have
Chain Veil is going to be available.
The Call of the Gatewatch, is that the one that they come in with an additional loyalty or whatever?
Yep. There's another new one that lets you search your library or the top of your library. I forget what it's called. Board the Weatherlight, I think, or something like that.
The 2 mana white one?
Yeah, that we probably will get into in our next show. Obviously Chain Veil, obviously the original Teferi card you probably would want to run in the deck. Original Teferi Planeswalker card probably would have a home in the deck. So there's a lot of synergistic stuff too with these 2 cards that you would have. You're in the perfect blink colors.
Yep. Yes, you are. Speaking of, you could play Brago in there and really break things out.
No, seriously, this is a real deck. This is absolutely a real deck. You should build this. I want to see you make this deck.
I can't. The good friend of mine who we play test together a lot, Nate, has already called dibs because I'm like, I'm going to build. He's like, no, I have dibs. I'm like, well, fine, be that way.
Is he doing it for like 1v1 or is he doing it
for 1v1?
Do it for like regular commander.
He could do it for multiplayer.
Or you do it. You do one for regular commander.
Maybe I will. At, what is it, like $20 for the box or whatever?
It'll be.
Yeah, I might just do it just to have the cards.
Yeah.
The rest of the cards aren't so good, but.
That's a really good call. I like that. Max, what's your next one?
My next one is Raf Capuchin, Ship's Mage.
All right.
He's 2 white and a blue for a legendary creature, human wizard. He is base power 3. He's a base power toughness of 3/3. He has flash, flying, and he has you may cast historic spells as though they had flash. And historic spells from Dominaria, it's a new keyword. Is that the right thing?
Yeah.
Artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. So I kind of want to build, well, A, he's going into Brago as support just to help me get my mana rocks out faster. And I kind of want to build a blue-white artifact deck around him because I think that'd be fun.
All right. So I laughed when he mentioned Raph. Do you know why I laughed when he said that?
No.
Because I'll mention the EDH Rec podcast again. We recorded an episode about these commanders, whereupon I referred to him as Trash Capuchin.
Oh.
I think he's a great card in a deck. I think he's a great card in a bunch of decks.
Yeah.
And I don't want to repeat the whole thing I went into it in the podcast, so I won't go into the whole deal. Listen to it if you want to hear me rant for 5 minutes on Rav Capuchin. And I think in hands he will be a perfectly fine commander. The point I made it with it was I think there's going to be a lot of players who overestimate their own abilities, and they think they're going to be able to do really clever things with it. Oh, I'm going to sneak a bunch of flash stuff in, and they won't. They just won't do that. That won't be what happens. They'll play it as a 4-drop, which will use their entire turn. It'll accomplish absolutely nothing. It'll come back around. They'll have like one sorcery that they can cast at flash speed that probably won't make a difference anyway. Like there'll be a bunch of people that think they're doing clever stuff and they're just time walking themselves. It doesn't mean that you will be doing that, but I think it's a trap.
No, I agree.
It's kind of a trap commander where you think you're going to be like the smartest guy at the table, and you're probably not.
No, I completely agree with you. It's something that takes a lot of thought to build around.
No, I see what you're saying. Like, and I wasn't. I do agree. It's,
no, I know you're not ripping on me for real.
Every time you play that card, I'm gonna call it. Oh, look, Trash has hit the battlefield again.
All right. Moving on from Trash Capuchin, we'll talk about the next one. Well, and this one is not necessarily a great card either. My next one that I like is Valduke, Keeper of the Flame.
Oh, geez, I don't even know which one this is.
Mono red.
One of the few mono red legendaries in this set.
Valduke, legendary creature, human shaman. He's a 3/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, for each aura or equipment attached to Valduke, create a 3/1 elemental creature token with trample and haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. So it's kind of like a Kemba situation, but the tokens are better, but they only last on the turn. So I've been thinking about, or I think we've discussed in the show a few times, I want to make an extra combat step commander, and I've talked about trying
Martin
Stromgod is what I've been working on. But the problem with Martin is he's a 1/1, and I would have to invest enough stuff into keeping him alive in terms of like equipment that it doesn't leave a whole lot of room to make a bunch of tokens and stuff. Well, then we have Valduke here, who I'm going to want to run equipment with anyway, and who then makes the tokens. So I feel like for what I'm going to do, Valduke might work better than Martin Stromgod. So I went through.
I would agree with that, especially seeing how you're saying extra turns for combat step.
Because it triggers every time an extra combat step,
then
it
you
triggers
get another
those tokens.
set of tokens.
Because they don't go away till the end of turn.
Yep.
So if I have 4 equipment on him, and I do my first attack step, I make 3 of them, take an extra attack step, and make 3. Make
it
3
did
more.
read aura or equipment, correct?
It's aura as well. I was planning on doing it mostly with equipment, but you can use auras also.
Now, isn't there a mono red aura from something or another that you put in X tokens equal to the card's power?
Oh man, maybe there is.
I
no.
Because I was looking for it for my Euro deck, and the store that I was at wanted like $20 for it. And I'm like, yeah, right now.
It's like oh man, what's the banned modern card whose name just escaped me now as well?
Stoneforge Mystic.
Splinter Twin.
Splinter Twin.
It's an aura equivalent of Splinter Twin where you can tap the creature and
create so many.
Yeah, I forget what it's called too, but I'm sure there's 10 people yelling at us right now. It's this card, you dummies. We'll look it up, and
I'm perfectly fine with getting
I've gotten yelled at enough today.
So I'll be
I'm
completely
fine.
honest with all the viewers. I was waiting to hear from Max what time we were supposed to be doing this. I'm sitting on the couch, and I totally passed out. And then my phone goes off with, "What-ting?" And I'm like, "Oh, time to go. Let's get going."
So I was planning on doing equipment here, and I looked. There's 4 pieces of equipment that cost nothing to equip. There's a couple that have like weird like sigil of distinction. You have to remove counters off it, and it comes into play with counters on it. But basically, grafted war gear, lightning greaves, shuko, and thornbite staff because he's a shaman. Equips for free. So there's 4 pieces of equipment right away that I can, even if he dies, I can equip for nothing. And there's 50 pieces of equipment that are equipped for 1.
Yeah, I was gonna say for 1 because there's even one in this set I do believe the short sword or whatever that is +1/+1. And it's 1 drop and equips for 1.
And there's 10. The common I was Tenzo Godo's Maul, which is out of the Kamigawa block, which costs 1 to equip, but it gives +3/+3.
Is that the one that's the club on the art?
Yeah.
Okay, I know which one you're talking about.
But because it's legendary and he's red, it gives +3/+3 and trample for 1.
There's also, if you want to think about this, Hero's Blade from Origins, I do believe.
Still legendary creature for
free.
Yep. So there's enough options with equipment where I don't have to like do that Kemba thing where you're like, all right, it's going to cost me 6 to equip this Argentum armor.
Right.
Someone kills it, and you're like, oh, that's my entire next turn is re-equipping stuff.
And you re-equip, and then they kill it again.
Right.
The Kemba trap.
So I thought I would try to keep it really low to the ground in terms of equip cost. So if it dies, I can bring it back and not have to keep wasting an entire turn doing it. You also have Sundial the Infinite interaction here, where like if you Sundial when the Destroy These Creatures stat is on the stack, you can keep them.
Yep.
So it's not something you can rely on to have consistently, but like if you happen to have it out, that's a great little interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Skull Clamp, because they're 3/1s, they die to Skull Clamp, so I can draw cards off them after I've done my attacking. You have things like Impact Tremors or Perforos, where when they all come into play, it deals damage to people. And Goblin Bombardment or Ashnod's Ultra, where I can sack them for mana during the second main phase
other stuff.
to do other stuff as well.
So you're just getting dual value. I actually really like that idea. I would love to see this deck.
I'm gonna. So I think this is what my Martin Stromgeld deck is going to become instead of Martin Stromgeld. So I'll
let you
fairly
kill me.
certain I'm
I'll
gonna
let you
build
kill me once with it, and after I see how it works, and if it's really brutal, then it ain't happening.
Then
again.
it'll never ever appear again. Yeah.
I just want to see it go off once. That's usually what I do.
Then you can call it Trash Duke. Keeper of the Flame. All right. So who is next?
I'll take another one.
Sure.
Let's talk about Grand Warlord Radha. So 2 colorless, red, green. She has haste. She's a 3/4. Now, whenever 1 or more creatures you control attack, add that much mana in any combination of red or green. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps or phases end.
That's nice. That's super nice.
So I was always a fan of the original Radha, Warlord of Keld or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But you lost the mana.
Right.
She created double red when she attacked, but you lost the mana after combat. This allows you to keep the mana. So another thing is she's an elf. Ooh, elf ball. Let's just start sending Llanowar elves and stuff at you and just create a whole bunch of mana.
For that Greater Hoof or something.
Yeah, do whatever else you need to do with it. So I like the ability to just kind of mana ramp, and I'm going to fireball somebody with this. I know it.
There you go.
That's my plan. I'm going to Banefire somebody.
No, she's definitely much stronger than her previous version.
Really
and she
cool
looks
art.
much buffer than her previous version. She's pretty swole in that art. Yeah, no, she's a cool card. I think she's actually going to wind up being pretty popular when all is said and done.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see people playing her.
Gives you something to run Bloodbraid in.
Right, yeah.
Oh, Bloodbraid. I forgot about Bloodbraid.
Yeah.
I even played Bloodbraid in Modern, and I forgot about that in Commander.
Because really, was she the only red-green elf, I believe, prior to this? Her previous version?
I think so.
So if you wanted to run like multicolor elf, like especially red-green elves, there weren't a lot of options. But yeah, I think that would be, and it would give you a unique take on an elf ball deck too, being able to play red-green elves.
Yes, I see it more as a elf ball or a weenie deck of some sort. Maybe elves and goblins, because you could run the weenie goblins with it and just generate a whole bunch of mana. Not sure what you're going to use the mana for. I mean, that'd have to be your game plan, what you want to use it for.
Right.
But the ability to generate, god awful amounts of mana could be just horrendous for your opponents.
I like it. All right, Max.
I have one more.
All right, lay it on us.
Daragaz Reincarnated. 4 in Jund for a legendary creature dragon with power and toughness of 7/7, flying, trample, and haste. If Daragaz would die, instead exile it with 3 egg counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, if he is exiled with an egg counter, remove it, and then when you remove the last one, return him to the battlefield.
So you pretty much gain suspend when he dies.
Yep. I think it's a cool way to not have to worry about, if you're land screwed or something and you get him out once, if you can survive 3 turns and let him just tick down, you're golden, and you can just get him on the field right away then. versus
if you
paying.
don't want to be using your mana to recast
Right.
your commander and you're willing to wait 2 turns.
I mean, if you're playing Jund Dragons, cool, I'll cast this other dragon for the next 3 turns. Then he'll drop, and then you probably have some sort of lord or buffer on the field, and you swing away.
So I am curious, are the other dragons dead? Because isn't there 5 of them?
There was 5 in that cycle, and there's actually a card about them being reborn, but it doesn't mention any of the other ones so far. So I'm not sure if it's just him and we haven't seen the other ones yet, or what's going on. I don't entirely know right now.
Yeah, because I don't remember seeing any of the other ones throughout the list.
The other ones aren't on the list at all, and they have not been mentioned. They're not really mentioned any of the card lore at all.
Nope.
So I don't know. Maybe that's yet to be determined in the storyline. I'm not sure. I've got one more, and this is a deck I think I'm going to build. I haven't decided yet entirely because I already have an Orzhov deck. I don't want 2 Orzhov decks.
Okay, here it comes. I was waiting.
But,
You said earlier I was waiting for this.
Arvad the Cursed. He's a legendary creature, Vampire Knight. He has Death Touch and Lifelink. He's 5 to cast, 3, 1 white and 1 black. And he's very simple. Other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. So, initially I was also looking at this as like, yeah, this might be kind of a silly thing to do. However, in again looking closer at all the cards that were available, this was a little bit like the Angel before, where there's a bunch of really annoying, cheap to cast legends in black and white.
Oh God, it's Reki all over again.
Yep.
Yeah, really. I mean, it kind of. But you've got 5 gods to start with, all of which are indestructible.
Yep.
All of which are somewhat annoying: Athreos, Heliod, Erebos, Aketra, and Bantu. All which are indestructible, all which have big bodies, all which he then gets even bigger bodies. They all kind of cross-pollinate one another to buff each other up in terms of like turning on devotion. They have activated abilities that do things. So those are all like useful cards right there that you have access to in these colors. But yeah, so you have stuff like Ayali, Eternal Pilgrim, who's a 2/3 for 2 mana with Death Touch, and you can sacrifice a creature to gain life and sacrifice a creature to exile a creature.
Uncle Carl.
No,
Uncle Carl.
But Uncle Carl too. Like Uncle Carl's also 2, but he becomes that much bigger with the buff from Arvad. So does Ailey. You have things like Bramaz, who is already pretty efficient, 3 mana for a 3/4.
No.
Bramaz is a 5/6 then with Vigilance.
I have a Spanish Bramaz if you want it.
I don't. But,
El Kitty.
but the second Draena then with him becomes a 4/5. It becomes a 4/5 for 3 mana. There's a bunch of these that are like really efficient to cast. 8.5 Tails is 2 mana for a 2/2, becomes a 4/4, and they all have annoying abilities to deal with.
You can run the dog. The 1 mana dog.
That becomes a 4/4 for 1 mana.
That's gross.
Gisela the Broken Blade is a 6/5 then with like 19 abilities. And you're in Odric colors, who becomes more annoying because he becomes like a 5/6 and shares all those abilities among all your creatures. And your commander has a lifelink and Death Touch to start with. So that's immediately giving those everything. You've got 5 indestructible gods, so you're sharing indestructible if you get Odric out. I think it would be a really effective deck. You have a bunch of annoying legends that you cast, and then you cast your commander and make them much tougher to deal with. And then we just got 2 cards that we'll probably talk about on next week's show. But we got Urza's Ruinous Blast in this set that destroys non-land and non-legendary permanents. So all your creatures survive.
Doesn't it exile them?
It exiles, yeah, sorry. So all your creatures survive. And we got Primeval's Glorious Rebirth, which is black and white. Returns all legendary permanents from your graveyard to the battlefield.
And
So
you
you
have
just-
Righteous War, so they ain't
And
gonna
you
die.
have Righteous War, exactly.
I was
I'm
waiting
telling
for
you.
it.
I'm telling you. I'm building this deck.
We have signed copies of Righteous War signed by
do.
Dana. We could
Oh,
slot that in for
man.
him.
I'm telling you, this is going to be a deck.
No,
I'm gonna build it. I'm gonna build it. No, I've decided I'm gonna build it.
No.
And he's uncommon. This is even worse.
This is awesome. I'm for sure doing it. And then throw a few buffs in there. There's what do you have? Dictated Heliod. It gives it another 2/2 on top of it. There's Day of Destiny, which gives all legendary creatures +2/+2. Hero's Podium.
Yep.
All legendary creatures get +1/+1 for their legendary creatures. So you can just buff these guys to oblivion. They're all really tough to deal with because they all have abilities.
The only upside is that he's in bad colors for card draw.
Black's got a ton of card draw though,
It
because
does. But and he's got lifelink.
and
so
he's
you're
got
just gonna-
lifelink, and half these guys have lifelink.
And you're gonna run Well Lost Dreams, so you're just gonna pay
Right.
X to draw cards when you
Seriously.
gain life.
It's gonna be a thing. I'm telling you.
It's nasty. I concede now.
He could play Teamna in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's black, white, legendary.
Ravos.
She's
Draw a
bunch
got-
of cards
she's
off
got
her?
card draw.
Ravos, buff him
Ravos.
again.
No.
I'm doing it.
And this is so bad.
Okay, then we gotta square off. You can play
I gotta
this. Someone
find
can.
something that says legendary creatures cost like
Destroy-
5 more
right,
to
yeah,
play.
exactly. There's Arena of the Ancients out of Legends that say legendary permanents or creatures don't untap. I think it's creatures.
Yep, we're gonna buy one of those. It's probably on the
cheap,
reserve list too.
You know, it was reprinted in Chronicles, so I
Okay.
know it's dirt cheap. Because I ran it in Mariki Beret or Mariki, however you say it, because she doesn't untap by default.
Yep.
And I had no legendary creatures in the deck, so I was like, oh, well, it doesn't hurt me, and it's going to screw up everyone's
Yes.
commanders at least. So
Yes, it was in Chronicles, so that's cheap. That's like 50 cents.
there you go.
The Legends version is under 20.
Oh, yeah.
All Legends become tapped.
Oh, right. So it
No.
also taps them when it comes into play.
So the Oracle text is legendary creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps. When Arena of the Ancient enters the battlefield, tap all legendary creatures.
Well, that's gonna be secret tech. I'm just gonna go buy a whole bunch of them, and then
Buyout
Like-
time.
next year when another big legendary set comes out and Dana creates another legendary, I'm just gonna be like,
Can you
secretly slot these in?
can you control the sequence in which things enter the battlefield off Brago?
You stacked all the triggers, yeah.
So you could stack
So
that ETBing on Brago to come into play first to tap everyone else's legends,
So
and then your guys coming afterwards untapped.
maybe.
No, you can't.
No.
Never mind. You can't do that for sure.
No, because they all enter at the
No, I
same
don't-
time. You just stack the
Okay.
triggers.
But then you can stack the triggers though off the
Then you
tapping stuff.
There
So
you
you could
go.
do it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that though. It's a
No.
bad idea.
And I don't run that many legends in Brago.
Yeah, but you don't care. It's not.
True.
That's not about that. It's about tapping everyone else's stuff.
Yeah.
Then they can't untap. But let's not do that. That doesn't sound fun at all.
Well,
But this does sound fun. Arved the Cursed, super fun.
looks like I'm rebuilding my Aloro deck for multiplayer, and I'm gonna add this new guy called Bard in here, who is another propaganda effect, and we're just
Yeah.
gonna sit back and be like, no.
You can't attack me unless you have a gazillion mana. All right. So is that it for our hipster commander picks for the week?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm totally
But
disappointed.
there's so much stuff though. Like we could
Yes.
talk. I mean, when Max and I were discussing like doing this show, I'm like, we could do a 10-hour. Like you could do 10 hours just talking about commanders from this thing.
And I said, no, we're
Let's
not
not
doing
do
10
that.
hours.
Well, we can. I mean, you don't want to edit it. It was
Right.
mostly like,
That's
I don't
exactly.
wanna-
I don't want
I
to
don't want
edit
to
10
spend my
hours.
entire weekend editing, and no one wants to listen to us talk for 10 hours. I'm amazed people want to listen to us talk for 1 hour.
And 35 episodes
Right,
of
yeah,
1
that's
hour.
Pretty crazy.
It's because I'm here.
That's right.
Pretty much.
Chris carries the show.
Oh.
Okay, so that is, I think, going to be it. We will be back next week to talk about the non-legendary stuff, which isn't even true because there's like some legendary sorceries, and
Those are on that show.
we'll say the support cards from Dominaria.
Yeah.
All right, until then, I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.